What is up, my dudes and dudettes? Welcome back to Scrap Mechanic. Now today I have another finished project for you to show. It's the Beech that I showed you last time in a quite a raw state, which is now finished and uploaded to the workshop. Actually, it's been on the workshop for quite some time. I think it's about 2 weeks now, but I just now got around to making this showcase video. And I think today I'm gonna keep it all quite brief and short, just give you a quick tour around the plane and take it for a spin on the ground, in the air, and show you what it can do, and also what kind of problems this plane has, because there are some problems. It's not perfect. It's got some flaws that I don't really know how to address, but we'll get to that in due time. So let's start with just the outside and just admire this beautiful form. It's in real life, this is a very nice, very sleek aircraft. I just love the looks of it. So it has been on my mind for quite a while to just recreate this plane in Scrap Mechanic, and that's obviously what I did. Now the King Air is a twin-engine turboprop airplane, meaning there is a jet engine inside this engine compartment, and this jet engine drives a propeller, so there's not a piston engine in there, as one could or might suspect with propellers. No, there's an actual jet engine inside that does not produce thrust, but produces the power. It drives a turbine stage that is connected via a gear system to the prop. The gear system is just there to reduce the quite high engine RPM. Jet engines usually, especially the inner stages, have a very high RPM. That's just too fast for propeller. Propeller cannot handle the stress just because of its size. So you have to tone it down a bit and have a gearbox, a gear system in between the engine and the actual propeller. Of course, this plane has retractable gear, which is also modeled here. Yeah, a full flap system with 2 stages of flaps, which is also like that in real life. We have like a half flap approach and takeoff flap setting, and a full flap setting for the landing, which also produces kind of a lot of drag. So it's really only for approach and landing when you're going downhill, so to speak. Anyway, it's probably not recommended to use full flaps for takeoff, because the climb performance will be very much decreased. Also, it's the first plane I think that I built, at least, that really uses the PID controller instead of sort of direct controls. Yeah, it's working out fine. On the one side, it's working, but I think I think 3 PID blocks for the elevator, for the pitch and the roll controls, and also for the rudder function. I don't know if those are performance heavy, or it's just the the overall composition of the plane that just consists of a lot of logic blocks, the math logic from the mod pack. So there's a lot of calculations happening all the time, and the plane or the game seems a bit overwhelmed at times, and that causes malfunctions in the systems. Or another possibility would be that I just maybe I messed up one of those connections. Just when I was working on it, I disconnected 2 of those dots, and I didn't see it, and now the plane kind of malfunctions at times. In the beginning it's quite fine, but when you fly and fly it around and move the plane, sometimes it just it spasses out. It doesn't fly properly anymore, which I'm quite sure it's because of the many scripts running and the calculations that are happening. Especially we have a ground sensor here, and this sometimes in the air still detects the ground. So this is set to I think four or five blocks, just so we detect the ground when we're actually sitting on the ground. But sometimes in the air the ground sensor triggers, and a few of those systems are disabled on the ground. The roll controls are disabled on the ground, stuff like that. So when in the air we want all those systems to work, but if the ground sensor triggers without actually being on the ground, that's a problem. So yeah, I don't know how to handle that yet. It's on the workshop. You can try it out. You can use it. Um, if it's too frame rate expensive or it doesn't work at all for you, well, that's that's too bad. I'm aware of the problems and I'm trying to fix them, but for now I don't really have an idea how to do it. Um, I might, but this is something for the future and with a big maybe. But I might just take everything out of this plane again. Just gut it, leave the frame, and take all the logic out and rebuild the logic with simpler systems. Maybe that'll help. But for now, I just wanted to have a plane that flies with PID controllers, uh, just to get used to using them, because I think they're quite useful tools that um, you can do all of what the PID controller does with just regular number logic. But the systems get quite big quite fast, and every bit more that you add just adds to the calculations, adds to the stress on your system, and also adds to the delay the system has. The PID controller is one block, so it has one tick delay. But if you build the system from scratch and by yourself using the number logic and the math blocks, you might have a 4 tick delay or maybe a 10 tick delay, depending on the size of your systems, and that becomes quite noticeable when you want to do precision flying or just flying precisely. So yeah, I just wanted to test out the PID controllers, and for the most part they're working really, really well. I think I'm just gonna show you. There's not too much really to show you apart from, yeah, is all this also adds of course to the lag and to the impact on the system. Um, it's all on bearings. Everything is on a bearing. These uh, these horizontal stabilizers, the elevators, are on these bearings turned inward, so we have a nice trailing edge that's not perpendicular, but that's like it is in real life. Also, of course, the rudder is not straight down, but it's on an angle as it is in real life. Now also you might have noticed the wings are not level, but they have a 4-degree upward angle that is called a dihedral. Yes, it's called a dihedral. Wings that are angled upwards have a dihedral. Wings that are angled downwards have an anhedral. I hope you're taking notes. And to make matters worse, just more complicated, just because I could, the engines are on an additional set of bearings just to make them level again. So these are 4 degrees turned to this side. So can you actually see it? The wing is not in line. The wing is not in line with the engine, but the engine is turned horizontal again. So that looks awesome. I love the looks of it, but of course these bearings, all these bearings, the flaps are on pistons and bearings. All of that, of course, comes with a cost. Now I would say quite a good PC, so I can't really tell how the performance of this plane will be on an average or even a low performance PC. I don't know. You have to test it out. But enough of that. Let's just get in and fly this plane. Now, of course, we have a nice door that we can use to get into this plane. Now we can close the door. Now, on the inside, these are all the plate parts, and the plate parts are, yeah, not very good when it comes to collisions, so you get stuck very easily. Um, you cannot walk around upright. It looks like you could, and if those were normal block pieces, you probably could too, but I'm pressing forward right now and backwards, so somehow you can walk backwards but not forwards. The trick is just to crouch inside the plane, and you can go everywhere you want. Now here we have two seats that are usable. You can just sit there or invite a friend and sit there, but well, if this plane is performing well in multiplayer, I doubt. But yeah, still we have seats here, and you see the dwarf sits in there very nicely next to the window, and you can have a look outside. You can have your coffee, also see what the pilot is doing. Very nice, very cozy. Now, to get out, you're pretty much getting stuck every time because of all the plate and the wedge pieces when you get out of the seat. So I have two emergency exits marked here and here. These are invisible seats. You can just get in the seat and get off the seat, and you get pushed out of the plane at the top. Like, yeah, you see I cannot move, but I can get in the seat, out of the seat, and we're out of the plane again. Open the door, get in, and have a seat in the pilot's seat. Now when you get into the pilot's seat, of course the engine starts and all the lights are turning on. We have landing lights here. We have, of course, the blinking strobe lights on either wing. We have the red beacon light on the tail and on the belly, and the red and green lights on the wingtips. Now the engines of this plane are designed to act like real turboprop engines, at least as far as possible in scrap mechanic. Of course, we have our limitations. That's why there are two gauges on the engines. You can see them here. I'm gonna get rid of the UI. These gauges will show you your power setting, now the power you're setting as the pilot, and the power that is output by the engine. Now the power that is output by the engine is the power you put in. You want to have 50% power, and the engine will give you 50% power, but not straight away. Jet engines, but turboprop engines in particular, have take their time to spool up and to produce the power. This big propeller, there's quite a lot of resistance for the engine to overcome. So I added a simple delay system, which I think I already made a video about when I built the dash plane. I had also a very short series, I think it was only 3 videos, where I explained and rebuilt some of those systems, so you can do that too and implement them into your aircraft. The gauge in the back is your power input, so that's the power level you are setting, and the gauge in the front will show you the power level that the engine is producing. Now I'm holding the wheel brake so we don't go anywhere, and let's just set 50% power and see how the engines react. 50% power, and the engine is following. I think it's quite a bit faster than in real life, so the King Air really I tested it out in an actual flight simulator, and when you go from 0 to full power, the engine takes a long time. So you usually stand on the runway, apply full power, and just sit there holding the brakes and wait for the engines to produce the actual power level, and then release the brake and take off. Also, what happens when you get into the seat is the first notch of flaps is dropped. So we have the intermediate stage, the takeoff stage or approach state of the flaps. I built the system in such a way that you can have all the flap settings, but it is still, when you're on the ground, when you get the gear down, it's automatic. You have one notch of flaps. So gear down means either you're on the ground about to take off, or you're in the air about to land. And that's when you need at least approach flaps. Now when you push switch number 5, this will drop the full flaps. So switch number 5 switch number 5 is not responsible for dropping full flaps, but one notch of flaps. When we're in the air and the gear is up, the flaps are fully up. Now when you switch on switch number 5, at this time you will have still one notch of flaps. Now when you push switch number 4, which is also the gear, so I'm not doing that now, this will retract or drop the other notch of flaps. So you can combine these two switches, so you can either have gear up and one notch of flap, gear down and one notch of flap, or gear down and two notches of flaps. And switch number 6 is the door. And that's basically everything you need to know. So let's apply a little bit of power and get this plane set up on the runway. We need quite a bit of power just so we can start to move, but then it's moving really well. So once we are moving, pretty much have to reduce the power straight away. Also we can use the wheel brake, button number 3, and it's quite a powerful wheel brake. So does not want to jump. This is something. Okay, it's doing it again. I'm going to show you this, and I cannot explain what is happening here. So let's not take off right now. Let's see what happens when we taxi. I'm pushing to the right now, and the plane went a little bit to the right, but then stopped. And now if I release the button, it's turning to the left and straightening out again. And I don't know why this is happening. There are no... I didn't use glitches for turning. Turning is achieved by wheel brakes, and this wheel in front. So there's no reason at all for this plane to just stop turning. Something really weird is happening. I don't know if it's a collision inside it, if it's a suspension glitch or anything. I don't know. It's turning to the left. It seems to be turning fine. But it's now this right turn. This was not me. This was the plane turning turning to the right by itself. So that's quite mysterious. I don't know what's happening there. Also, I can't get up here. Very nice. So let's set this plane back up on the runway. So there's some strange things happening with this plane that I cannot explain, and therefore I cannot solve if I don't know what's happening. So maybe I'm the only one that experiences this, but if I get behind it, then I will solve it. But for now we just have to deal with it, it seems. Right, but let's try to straighten this plane out. Maybe it wants to do it now. And step on the brake and apply full power to the engine while holding the brake. Because the runway is quite short, we need all the power straight away. Full power is set, brakes are holding, and release. Now in the back we see the airspeed, and half deflection means we can take off. Half deflection is 125 blocks per second. Now we can push switch number 4 and get the gear up. And let's not fly into the corner. And let's see how it behaves today. I haven't flown this plane for a few days. But for now it seems to be working. Also this plane auto-trims. So it always tries to keep the nose where it is. So it doesn't rise and doesn't fall. But for now it doesn't look too bad. It's flying. It does not seem to lock the roll controls, which it does sometimes. But for now it's working. Now let's try to land this thing. Gonna take the airport way there in the back. So we have enough time. Let's reduce the power a bit. And set the first stage of flaps. But it seems to be fighting me. I want to turn to the left, but it fights me. So that is really mysterious. I don't know what's happening. But I mean, it really wants to roll to the right quite a lot. And I don't know why. But can we still use this runway? We have to. Full brakes. Stay on the runway. I mean, landing performance is excellent. So once you're on the ground, you can stop in no time. The brakes are really good. But yeah, this behavior, this strange behavior out of nowhere, that it fights the control inputs. This is very strange to me. So you, especially not so much for the pitch, but for the roll and also the yaw on the ground. So you want to roll left, or you want to yaw left on the ground, just steer left, and it does it, but then suddenly stops and just doesn't do it anymore. And once you release the button, it steers in the opposite direction, which it makes no sense at all. But that's basically all I can say about this plane. I just encourage you, download it and try it out yourself and see if you have the problems. Maybe it's just my system, maybe it's just something on my part and it works good for you, which, yeah, I wish. That would be quite nice. I can deal with that. But I want people to enjoy my aircraft. But if I can't solve those problems, it's just gonna be a failed experiment and we're gonna move on. There are a lot more aircraft in the pipe, lots of projects coming, and yeah, next plane probably will be a simpler plane that's also flying good, but not frame rate expensive, not all too complicated. Just a nice and simple flyer. But I haven't planned anything in particular, so I don't know what project is next. But I have a lot of ideas for future projects. So yeah, stay tuned you guys, and thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.